Welcome to Dan's On Fandoms. I'm Dan. In 2019, Star Wars fans were introduced to a new Dark Lord of the Sith by the name of Darth Kal'Dath. Since then, fans have been provided several stories featuring the Sith Lord, specifically in the George Mann books Myths and Fables and Dark Legends, which provide in-universe tales, legends, and fables of characters and events throughout the Star Wars galaxy. So who exactly is Darth Kal'Dath, and what do we know about him at this point? Spoilers ahead for short stories that are featured in Myths and Fables as well as Dark Legends. Darth Kal'Dath was a male Duros and Dark Lord of the Sith. Much of the details surrounding Darth Kal'Dath's life are still unknown, such as when he lived, where he was born, and who his Sith master was, but we do know that Darth Kal'Dath was alive prior to the time when Count Dooku was a member of the Jedi Order. In the Dark Legends short story The Gilded Cage, the tale mentions that Darth Kal'Dath fought several battles with Jedi. Based on that information, it would seem as if Darth Kal'Dath was alive possibly several thousand years prior to Count Dooku's birth, as the Jedi during the Phantom Menace believed the Sith had been extinct for 1,000 years. Furthermore, in the Myths and Fables tale Gaze of Stone, it's mentioned that a statue on Moraban that Darth Kal'Dath was responsible for had been on the planet for 1,000 years or more. So it would appear that Darth Kal'Dath is a Sith of the Old Republic who most likely lived prior to the days of Darth Bane. As mentioned, Darth Kal'Dath has been mentioned in short stories for both Myths and Fables and Dark Legends, but his first mention in canon was in the audiobook Dooku Jedi Lost. In the audiobook, it's mentioned that Count Dooku had been given pages from the book The Bestiary of Darth Kal'Dath. Penned by Darth Kal'Dath, the book was about some of the Sith war beasts of his time, such as the Siluth, the Takata, the Vir Gundak, and the Krastanane. As for the myths and legends surrounding Darth Kal'Dath, it's said that Darth Kal'Dath and his Twi'lek apprentice, Rhine Nimbus, were considered to be two of the most powerful individuals in the galaxy. Kal'Dath originally found Rhine Nimbus when he was a young boy, convinced Nimbus's mother to let him take the boy as his apprentice, where he then began Nimbus's training to become a Sith Lord. Darth Kal'Dath then left a young Rhine Nimbus with slavers on the forest world of Cymoth, where Nimbus trained for 7 years as a gladiator, fighting various beasts and slaves before eventually becoming a champion. One day though, Darth Kal'Dath returned to Cymoth, where he slaughtered the entire camp of slavers and slaves who lived with Rhine Nimbus before he humiliated the Twi'lek apprentice, severed part of his Leku, and forced him into submission. Darth Kal'Dath then continued to train his apprentice, once leading him on a Jedi hunt for his own saber, before the two would scour the galaxy for relics and artifacts of the Sith and the dark arts. However, as time went on, and Rhine Nimbus's power in the dark side of the Force grew, the Sith apprentice eventually hungered for more power and planned to betray and kill his master. One day, when the two Sith returned to the Sith homeworld of Moraband, or Korriban as it had been known in ancient times, Darth Kal'Dath demanded a tribute from his apprentice, telling the Twi'lek he wanted a monument atop a mountain that overlooked the planet's desolate plains to act as a warning to all who underestimated the Dark Lord of the Sith's powers. Rhine Nimbus planned to erect the statue and then use an alchemical ritual he had stolen from Darth Kal'Dath's chambers, which would bind his Sith master to the stone statue. Sensing Rhine Nimbus's plans of betrayal, Darth Kal'Dath had altered the words in the ritual that Rhine Nimbus had stolen from his chambers, resulting in the Sith apprentice turning to stone after he had uttered the words of the ritual. Over the years, Darth Kal'Dath would also go on to acquire many enemies, including the Night Sisters of Dathomir. Intent on learning the Night Sisters' process of reanimating and resurrecting their dead kin, Darth Kal'Dath ventured to Dathomir and stole a burial pod used to inter the mummified remains of a dead Night Sister. This resulted in the Night Sisters viewing his actions as an act of war against their clan and swearing vengeance against the Sith. Biding their time, the Night Sisters prepared to exact their vengeance against the Sith Lord after he suffered a defeat at the hands of a Jedi. Using their magics, the Night Sisters enacted a ritual whereby one chosen Night Sister by the name of Zeldin would be able to breach Darth Kal'Dath's mind so as to slowly and subtly influence and coerce the Sith Lord into doing the Night Sisters' bidding. As time went on and Zeldin and her kin continued to access Darth Kal'Dath's mind to influence him to act in ways that would lead to his demise, Darth Kal'Dath seemed to somehow always survive traps crafted by the Night Sisters. Angered and impatient, Zeldin and the Night Sisters then attempted a ritual that would allow for Zeldin to possess Darth Kal'Dath. At first, Zeldin and her sister's efforts seemed to have worked, as Darth Kal'Dath's mental barriers crumbled and the Night Sisters seemed to fully possess the body of the Dark Lord of the Sith. However, Zeldin quickly realized that Darth Darth Kaldoth had been wise to her and her sister's plans from the beginning and had drawn on the Night Sisters' power and knowledge this entire time. Kaldoth was then able to entrap Zeldin's mind in his own, permanently severing her mind's connection to her body, which resulted in Zeldin's disembodied presence being imprisoned within the Sith Lord's mind, forever jailed, with no power to control her body or Darth Kaldoth's. And that, my friends, is everything we know about Darth Kaldoth at this time. While much of what we know about Darth Kaldoth are from in-universe tales, his inclusion in Dooku Jedi Lost does make him a canon Sith Lord. We can glean some information about the Sith Lord from his tales in both myths and fables and dark legends, but there's still much about the Dark Lord of the Sith that we don't know as of yet. As we continue to get more and more Star Wars stories and content, I hope more information is provided on the life and time of Darth Kaldoth, as he's a character I'd love to learn more about. But were you aware of the Sith Lord Darth Kaldoth? And what do you think about the myths surrounding the Sith Lord? Let us know down in the comments. Want more Star Wars content? Check out some of our other videos. Please like and subscribe, and stay nerdy.